This week we had a deer wandering through our yard, a baby deer, and for 3 or so days we saw it just all by itself, not with a mama. And so we ended up calling Fish and Game because we also noticed this deer that had a lot of cuts and scabs and things on its head. We weren't sure why until we noticed that the deer has seizures, and so it just would randomly, you know, it would be walking and then it would rear its head back and just drop to the ground and start flailing, and then it would just lay there trying to recover, like head spinning. It took a moment to, anyways, we assumed that because of that the mama probably abandoned the deer, but for a day our kids got to enjoy seeing a baby deer up close, and we ended up calling Fish and Game. He helped us kind of guide the deer back to a bedding area where the deer on our land like to bed, and we opted to just let it be and let nature take its course, whether that was in the form of mom coming back to the deer, and hopefully that was the case, or you know, just seeing how long it could endure what it had been given to deal with. So typically the mom probably abandons the deer when it has health issues like that, because it's too much of a risk for the mama as well. But anyway, so we haven't seen it since, and we're really hoping that the deer got taken back by its mom and is making it in the world. But the kids sure enjoyed it. I know they were disappointed. You know, they wanted to take it in as a pet, which of course isn't the best thing for the deer. But you know, choosing to leave it out there, that was difficult for them. And we talked about how maybe it wouldn't be long for the world because of its health conditions, but I think it's really good for our kids to, you know, go through those experiences and have to kind of see like the full circle of life and experience death and I don't know what do you want to add to that?
No, just,
I mean, it's not a fun thing to have to, they were all sad and they were crying but we're really hoping the mama took it back, and because we haven't seen a sign of it since. And so I think for our kids, they've had experiences not only with that, but with our own pets, you know, when something gets into the chickens or rabbits or things like that, you know, they get sad, and it's hard, but it's a good opportunity to teach them kind of how life is and how life works. So
all right. Well, thanks everybody. Hope you enjoyed the video and enjoy that cute little up-close video of baby deer.
So it just had a seizure. Now it's kind of takes a minute to not be dazed.
Okay, so wanted to show you a couple of things. One of the painful parts of gardening and having fruit trees and different things like that is that you have to go through and thin things out sometimes. Sometimes that's really painful. Like we're gonna thin out some tomatoes here in a minute, and some of them already have tomatoes on the branches that we're gonna have to cut off. And that's painful, but it's really the best thing for your plant in order for it to grow and produce healthy fruits and vegetables, so that they aren't super small and wimpy. We want nice, big, healthy fruits. So one of the things here with my squash plants, I planted several seeds because I saved the seeds a few years ago. We didn't plant a garden last year because we were in a rental property, and I've had these seeds for a couple of years. So I planted lots of seeds just to make sure I had a good germination to get enough plants that I wanted. But in this case, now I have way too many plants, so I need to thin some of them out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Really what I want to do is pick the biggest, healthiest looking plant and get rid of the rest. So right here you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plants. I can tell this is the smallest one. I'm going to go ahead and just pull that up. And that's kind of a bummer, but you've really got to do it. If they had bigger roots, I'd probably just cut them with a knife right at the base. These have small enough roots that it's not going to be ripping up any of the roots from the best plants. I think I'm actually going to leave 2 for right now because I can't decide which one I like better. And then I may come back and thin out a little bit more later. But right now I've got 2 good looking plants. This one might be the biggest here, but both are pretty close. So that's one of the things you have to do. It's painful to do it, especially when you have like a fruit tree with tons of plums or peaches or apples, and you're so excited to get so many plums and peaches, but I promise you, you'll be better off if you thin them out so that you can get nice big juicy ones rather than little hard lame ones. Okay, so time for a little bit more pain with pruning. Like I said earlier, this is the most painful part because as you can see, these already have tomatoes on them. It's probably best to prune them before they get to this point, but honestly, I've been busy and life goes on even when you're busy. So here we are. I'm going to have to prune some of these back even though they've gone a little further than what I normally would like them to be. So it has 2 main branches here. I only want 1. This is what's called an indeterminate tomato variety, which means it can grow as tall as it wants to. Determinate would mean that it's a bush tomato, really, and it's not going to grow very tall. So because this is indeterminate, I want it to grow tall, and I'm going to trellis it up rather than just let it go crazy and flop on the ground. That's going to help keep the tomato from getting disease like blight and things like that. So I'm going to make a decision on which one looks healthier. I let my beautiful wife decide. She wants to keep this one. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this main branch, even though it does have tomatoes on it. I'm going to go ahead and cut it close back to the stalk. Just cut it with a sharp knife. Like I say, it's best if you do this before. But there goes that whole branch, which is like a whole tomato plant, really. You'll have suckers come off of these tomato plants, and you'll find big ones that seem to spring up overnight. I generally cut them off unless there's a good reason for me to keep them. So that's what that looks like. I'm going to prune this one even a little bit more, though, because right here you've got a couple more little suckers, and those are just taking energy, and I want to get rid of those. So again, I'm going to cut them right close to the trunk, I guess, of the tomato. Here's another one. They kind of come up out of the crotch, so to speak, of the tomato branches. That's where the suckers tend to come up. Some of these small ones, like here's a teeny tiny one. I don't know if you can see that right there. That's a teeny tiny one. That's the stage where I like to catch them when I'm not quite as busy and I'm paying closer attention. And I'm just going to take my fingers and pinch that right off with my fingernails. And then that won't grow anymore. So now we're down to one really nice, solid tomato vine. And we'll trellis that up soon. All of these flowers will eventually pollinate and turn into little tiny tomatoes. There's one, just a baby one starting to grow right there. It's kind of fun when you start to see the tomatoes growing. As I'm pruning off these suckers off of the tomato plants, one thing that you can do if you want to And if it's early enough in the season, you can actually dip those in a little bit of rooting hormone and put them in a pot that you keep really nice and wet to encourage root growth, and you could turn that into an additional tomato plant. At this point in the season, it's July 1st today, I'm not going to worry about that, but it is something that you could do if you're early in the season. Maybe you planted them in a greenhouse early on and you'd like to propagate some more plants. That is something that you can do. If you get up close here, you can see they have all these little hairs, and sometimes they'll have little white kind of nodes. This is cotton that's sticking to them from our cottonwood trees, but all of those would turn into little roots if you put that into water. So that's something you can do if you ever would like to try propagating some more tomato plants. Okay, so I wanted to talk really quickly about why we chose the spots that we chose this year to grow our garden in. Usually you want spaces that have lots of open sun, and the sun is coming from the south and you've got no obstructions and things like that. This is kind of an awkward spot for what you would consider in a traditional garden, because south is this way, and as you can see, our garage is shading that for a good portion of the day. Once it hits about 12 o'clock, the sun is going to be coming straight down on all of this, and then it gets all the afternoon sun really, really well. But the reason we chose to plant our garden in this space this year, and honestly all the way around our house, is it's a brand new house. We're broke, so we couldn't put in our yard and landscaping and all of that kind of stuff. But as happens when you build a new house, there's tons of dirt right around the house. And when you have open dirt, you always invite weeds. As you can see back here behind me, that's a ton of weeds that have just grown in. We didn't want that all the way around our house, and we didn't want to spray a bunch of chemicals and things like that if we can avoid it. There are times when we certainly spray for weeds, but if we can avoid it, we try to. So something else that we've kind of done is, you see all of these little plants scattered all the way up here close to the patio of the house. Those are actually little sunflower plants. We had a bunch of sunflower seeds from a neighbor that gave them to us last fall, and we wanted to use those as, I guess, kind of a ground cover and keep this space as weed-free as we possibly can. So we planted a lot of dense sunflowers. That's going to be really fun and pretty here later on in the summer. We've got a couple of pumpkin plants right here on the sides of me. We thought that would be fun because that would kind of go down this sloped hill that we have leading up to the house and hopefully cover out some of that area. We did weed this morning, and we left the weeds just on the ground where they were. None of them were going to seed yet, so we just leave them, and that turns into a mulch. It's the chop and drop method, I guess, and that'll look really nice here in a couple of days. The kids and I weeded over here a few days ago on the other side of the steps, and you can see in that area it's pretty weed-free. The green that you're seeing up toward the house after the squash plants are all plants that we're actually trying to grow. So we're happy to have those, but the kids have done a nice job keeping the weeds out of there. Now that we've got this under control, we should be able to keep it looking like that for the rest of the summer, and we'll keep weeding occasionally throughout the summer.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Homesteading with the Freiburgers.
Is that what it is?
I don't know. We're gonna call it that. Welcome to the channel. You're not gonna say anything?
Welcome.
Yeah, and we ended up calling Fish and Game. They came out and they helped us direct.
There's a fly attacking us.
It was sweaty, so hot. It's like it's in the 90s today. I don't know. It's hot.
Nice job.
Without any bloopers.
Such skill.
I know. I've gotten so good.
Totally.
Yeah, fun to see it up that close.
Mm-hmm.
That close up.